West Ham United have been a mainstay of the Premier League for most of my adult life, but have yet never won an English top flight title. Yes, they've tasted FA Cup glory and even Continental success, but today I am gunning for that Premier League trophy. So I have taken over the manager's job at West Ham with a goal of winning the Premier League by any means necessary. And here we are, guys. We are taking over West Ham at the start of the 23-24 season. I will say we are using a real-world database as we go and set things up in Football Manager, so we don't have players like Kudus, Ward-Prowse, etc. like that coming in. And obviously, we don't have any of the new signings that they are making in real life because it seems like they are making some incredible moves. What I will say, looking at this squad initially, it's pretty decent. Zouma, who I'm not a huge fan of, is a good player in the game, annoyingly. Edzson Alvarez, 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪, etc., Paquetá, etc., etc. We've got a whole host of players coming into the team. Obviously, Kalvin Phillips later on in the season, but Kudus and Ward-Prowse are the two that I'm kind of the most keen on getting into the team. We are going to be running a 4-3-3 today. It is 𝘼𝙗𝙗 Blade. You know I like to use G's tactics in these rebuilds because we publish them on the channel, and also this gives you a good idea as to how successful this tactic can be over a longer period of time with a different team that we necessarily didn't test it with. I'll leave links to this tactic down below, but this is what the team looks like right off the rip. Obviously, we do have some players to come in. A little bit worried about Danny Ings as a striker, but I think the core of the team is relatively strong regardless. So we're going to have to see what we can do in season number 1. If we have a look in the competitions tab, of course, as Conference League winners last season, we will be into the Europa League. Hopefully we can have a good showing of that there, but obviously my main goal is to win West Ham a Premier League trophy, because if we look at their overview, you can see one-time winner of the European Cup Winners' Cup, 3 times winners of the FA Cup, and obviously that 1 Europa Conference League from last year, 1 Community Shield, 2 Sky Bet Championships. Hopefully we won't be touching the Sky Bet Championship. But yeah, this is our goal. We are going to try and win West Ham a Premier League trophy. So let's get to simulating season number 1. And for me, season number 1 was all about us getting our feet under the table and seeing what we actually had to work with this West Ham team. And in the Premier League, we started fantastically, going unbeaten for our opening 8 games of the season before losing on the road to Manchester City in October. Once all the signings had arrived, this is how the team was set up, with 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 leading the line, with Paquetá and Kudus running things out wide. Bowen did have a remarkable season for us as he provided 20 goals and 13 assists in all competitions, whilst offering us that versatility of playing games across any of those front 3 positions. Our second half of the season in the Prem went as well as the first, with some positive results against the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City, along with an 8-1 thumping of Spurs.
What do we think of Tottenham?
However, we did lose 2 of our final 3 games against Liverpool and Chelsea to finish 3rd in the table behind champions Liverpool and Aston Villa. Yep, so that means there will be 2 teams in claret and blue playing in the Champions League next year. Away from the Premier League, cup competitions weren't our friend this season, as we were dumped out of the EFL Cup in the 3rd round at the hands of Chelsea. And the FA Cup wasn't much better, as we lost in the 4th round against Spurs. As for our European adventure, we smashed our Europa League group, going unbeaten in the 6 games to top the group and move into the round of 16. Here we faced a 2-legged tie against German side Union Berlin, who put up little to no resistance, as we beat them 4-0 both in Berlin and at home to cruise into the quarter-finals. However, this is where our luck in this competition came to an end, as we were handed Liverpool by the draw gods. The first leg was at the London Stadium, where Thomas Soucek gave us the lead in the second half with a calm finish, but Liverpool did equalise in the 88th minute after Alisson's header came crashing back off the bar from a corner, and Alexis McAllister was on hand to sweep the ball into the back of the net. Yeah, you heard me right. An Alisson header. But the game at Anfield was a little bit more one-sided, as Liverpool dominated the key chances in the game and ultimately ran out 4-1 winners on the night and 5-2 on aggregate. Whilst we didn't have any trophy success this season, I think we low-key kind of smashed it and will be in the Champions League next year. Over the summer, the board have given me £60 million to work with, along with a £400,000 a week increase in our wage budget. So that should be pretty good to do some good damage. So guys, we're going to kick things off right here. 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 is gone. He was our biggest departure in this summer window. We sold him to Al Nassr for £49 million. Had a good season for us last year. Only a 6.92 in the Premier League, which according to SI is a good rating. I disagree. Look for at least a 7. But he had a solid season, got 3 goals for us and 1 player of the match. But £49 million for him is a good deal. Obviously going to play in Saudi Arabia. He's now on 600k a week. We are not paying for that. So you can kind of see why he's made that move. In terms of some of the transfers that we have made though, guys, we have got active in this transfer window. I am not going to lie. These highlighted ones on this page are the ones that we have also gone there. You can see lots of loans and a couple of free transfers. Pablo Fornal's another outgoing for us on this page. But you can see in terms of the incomings, we've spent a lot of money, guys. We've spent a lot of cash, lots of it's installments and lots of it's future fees should things be achieved by some of these players. But let's run through some of them initially. Mads Rorslev comes in from Brentford to be a new right back for us, supremely well rounded. If you've not signed him in this year's game, I would highly recommend it coming out of Brentford. He is and can be exceptional, and I'm hoping he can do that here. 30 million for his services. Mad Hermansson comes in to be our new number 1, or at least compete for that job. Another Danish international or youth international, 6'1", really nice goalkeeping attributes. The only thing I dislike about him is how eccentric he is, but that's just a personal preference on goalkeepers. I know it can help with things like penalty saving and stuff like that. He came in from Leicester City for an initial £30 million. Another goalkeeper for us though was Noah Atabolu. Sometimes when you can't make a decision in terms of which goalkeeper is going to be best, you sign them both and you let them compete for the spot. So that's exactly what we've done here. He comes in from Freiburg for 55 million quid though, so probably more successful that he is the guy to take the number 1 jersey. Arnold Koulibaly comes in as another striker option for us. I did say I wasn't overly happy with Danny Ings, and Jared Bowen did play there, but this young French youth international can go on to be an absolute stud in game this year, signed from Rennes for £55 million. We spent £12.25 million on John Kennedy as well. Good rotation option again. A key player in these 3 key positions for us playing this 4-3-3. So that is also really, really good to have that squad depth. We also signed 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 𝙤𝙪 from Aston Villa. He is a great centre-back. I love him in this year's game. Can also play right back if needed. He's now got his 2 caps for England. Obviously played that 1 game in the Euros. I thought he was pretty good. £53 million for him. And then the 2 on this side. Kaio Jorge comes in from Juventus for £5.75 million. Again, another rotation option at that price point. You cannot argue with it. And Marvin Bard comes in to play left back for us. He can play basically anywhere up that left hand side, and he came in from Nice for £13.75 million. So lots of transfers, lots of new bodies in, which makes the best 11 look a bit like this. Obviously we still have a couple of interesting players in the team, but what we've basically done here is added a supreme amount of depth I don't think we had last season. We've got Hermansson, Areola and Atabolu basically fighting out for the goalkeeper spot. We've got nice good depth in centre-back positions, in the full-back positions, and I think we are really ready to cause some damage this year. If we go into the competitions tab, we do have the Champions League for the first time in this save after last year's 3rd place finish. Obviously, we have the 2 domestic cups in England as well. The board are expecting a top half finish in the Premier League. I again want to secure Champions League football for another year. We're 50-1 to win the title. What do the bookies know? There's been a lots of transfers in terms of managers. Unai Emery's at Manchester City now. Simeone Inzaghi is at Liverpool. As I said, lots of crazy stuff going on. But again, I want Champions League football for season number 3. So let's go and get it and simulate this year. As I said, after a heavy summer of recruitment, our main goal was to secure Champions League football for season number 3 to make sure that we keep that money coming in so that we can actually pay for some of those installments that we have set up. And our campaign got off to a great start, going unbeaten in our first 6 games. It really seemed like we'd established ourselves as a good team in this division, but we did still struggle with the elite teams in the league, losing to the likes of Manchester City and Liverpool. Our key man this season was James Ward-Prowse, who was elite for us from set pieces, as you kind of would expect. The former Southampton man not only provided 9 goals in all competitions, but racked up an outstanding 35 assists in 53 appearances and proved what a threat he can be. After Christmas, we continued at the same rate we had at the start of the season, beating teams you'd expect, but losing on the road to Manchester City, Aston Villa and Spurs. We actually achieved one more point than last year, finishing on 76 points, but this year we slipped down to 4th in the table, 8 points behind eventual winners Manchester City. But that does mean Champions League football for next year, and we had one hell of a run in that competition this year. We had a slow start in the league phase with a draw and a loss, but we then got things back on track with 6 straight wins to finish 4th in the table and move straight into the round of 16. It was German opposition here, and we had to face Bayer Leverkusen. The first leg was on the road where we shared the spoils as 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 cancelled out a first half penalty. Whereas the game in London, we had a super sluggish start to find ourselves 2 goals down going into half time. But after a rocket up the backside at half time, we came out a different team and scored 3 goals inside 10 second half minutes to move onwards to the quarter-finals. It was familiar foes here as we would have to take on English opposition in the face of Liverpool, with the first leg being at the London Stadium. This round we started the home leg superbly with 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 netting in the first half with a brace. Liverpool did rally in the second half as we traded goals back and forth, but we came out of it with a 4-2 lead to take to Anfield. And try as they might, our defence stood firm with 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 scoring the only goal of the game from outside the area to see us move into the semi-finals. We had to take a trip back to Germany here as we were drawn against juggernauts Bayern Munich, where we had to suffer a narrow 1-0 defeat on the road with Kingsley Coman breaking the deadlock. But back at the London Stadium, we took the German giants to the cleaners as goals from Mads Rorslev and 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 saw us remarkably move into the Champions League final. And is it a Champions League final in Football Manager if you don't play Real Madrid? This game was a lot closer than you would have expected, but it was Jude Bellingham who scored the only goal of the game in the 8th minute with a decent solo strike. So it wasn't to be in the Champions League this year, but I'd like to think in this save that we could get back to this point. But our success did not end in the Champions League. We had a quote-unquote lucky run to the FA Cup final where we faced lower league opposition all the way, other than the exception of Manchester United, who we beat on penalties in the 5th round. It was Arsenal who stood in our way here, and the teams battled hard for 120 minutes, but we couldn't find a breakthrough, meaning the game would be decided via penalties. Both keepers were on form in this one, but our keeper Mads Hermansen earned his wage that day, saving penalties from Kai Havertz, Emil Smith-Rowe and Reiss Nelson to see us win the club's first FA Cup since 1980. Oh yeah, and we lost to Manchester United in the 3rd round of the EFL Cup, but who cares about that when you look at the rest of the season? I think several West Ham supporters will bite your hand off for a year like this, but for me, I personally still think there is a little bit of room for improvement, obviously namely winning the Premier League, getting to a Champions League final and actually winning it this time. The Premier League money continues to just hit that little bit different in this save as we have another £72 million to spend as I go in search of that Premier League title. So guys, we went pretty heavy in the transfer market as well, but I do have one quick flip to talk to you about, which is Melvin Barr. We signed him last season for £13.75 million. He's now moved to Al-Ittihad for 46 million quid after just 1 year. He wasn't even fantastic. He only got 6 assists from left back, but the money's too good, as again, it hits different, 650k a week. We were not paying him that. He has moved to Saudi and we wish him all the best of luck. Club legend Vladimir Coufal also gone as well. We're moving or trying to move Kurt Zouma on as well. Thilo Carrère also gone back to Germany. He has departed the club to go to Dortmund. But we have been out and we have spent some money, guys. Don't you worry. It wouldn't be a save in the Premier League if we didn't spend loads of money. These are the early bits of business that we did manage to do. 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 comes in from the Netherlands. 6'2", nice big strong body to come in that middle of the park. Good off the ball, good balance, good first touch on him, as well as his good concentration. I quite like him as a player, actually. I've seen him in a couple of different saves that I like the look of. Usually he's already moved at this point, so 16.75 million initially is quite good. We then signed the best right back in the game, in my opinion, in Michael Kayode. He is from Fiorentina. If you've not seen him in this year's game, he got a little bit of a bump in the winter update. He is sensational. 5 caps for Italy now in game. One of the best, if not the best right back. He's my favourite. £35 million from Fiorentina. That could and probably will rise to 66 million. We also signed 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 𝙈𝙚 from Roma. He is a very good defence midfielder. £30 million initially for him. Great tackling. His marking could do with a little bit of work, but he is a very good physical presence in that midfield, despite only being 5'9". He's a model citizen personality as well, so a great addition to have in the dressing room. We also signed 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 from Rennes. He comes in to play as that new left back, obviously with Marvin Bard going over. We raided Liga for another French fullback. He comes in for £40 million. I'm not even going to butcher Addons. I'm not going to butcher his name. Great centre back, very physical presence again. Ivorian international, 6'3", absolute monster, kind of like our 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 replacement because he's quite quick as well. That's the money and the transfer business on this page. And then on this side, we kind of went a little bit crazy. I'm going to say we signed Leif Davis first. Yeah, because we did sign Leif Davis. He is great. Obviously, he's moved from Ipswich in this world. He was at Crystal Palace. A nice quick flip from Palace there. He comes in to be one of our good left back options. And I just love how this guy plays in game. I think he's outstanding this year. We also managed to sign 2 players for lots of money from big teams in the division as well. First up was Cody Gakpo from Liverpool. He came in for £55 million. Wasn't playing in abundance at Liverpool, if you look at this. 20 appearances for them in the Premier League. 12 of those coming off the bench. So you can kind of see why they were happy to move him on. £55 million felt like a good deal, especially considering his versatility. And we also signed Rasmus Højlund from Manchester United. He's actually developed better than I've seen in a lot of saves this time around. He's consistent. He likes his big matches. Physically, he's an absolute freak. So I'm hoping, given him extended game time, which he's not really got at Manchester United, only 22 starts in the Premier League last year and then 25 the season before, 7 goals apiece in the last 2 seasons. I'm really expecting him to explode onto the scene this year in this team. And if we go into the team and into the tactic, this is what our best 11 looks like. Gakpo and Højlund come in to partner Jarrod Bowen there. Paquetá, Ward-Prowse and Alvarez complete that midfield. Coyote comes into the right back spot as well. So we're quite top heavy with that front 3, but on paper, that's quite tasty. I quite like it. If we go and have a look at the competitions, again, we are into the Community Shield as FA Cup winners. We're back in the Champions League again. The board want us to qualify for the Europa League via the league this time around. But if we have a look at the season preview, we are down in 8th. Not expected to do well at all. And in this game mode, Arne Slot has arrived as the Liverpool manager because he did, I believe, go to Aston Villa first, was it? Did I see? Yeah, he was at Aston Villa. Left Feyenoord for Aston Villa, then moved on to Liverpool. So he actually got there in the end. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how he gets on with the Reds at Anfield. So we're going to simulate this season and see what Season 3 has in store. As FA Cup winners, we kicked off the year with the Community Shield, where we took on Manchester City at Wembley and staked our claim in this one with a nice 2-0 win over the Premier League champions. We also have an additional signing to talk to you about, as Tino Livramento was confirmed on that same day as our latest signing. So I really feel we are so deep this season. We carried that early season form into the Premier League campaign, even showcasing that we could beat some of the league's big boys, as we got 3 points against Manchester United and Liverpool. But it was over the festive period where things exploded, as we put together a 13-game unbeaten run that included some hidings for some teams in this league. Summer signing Rasmus Højlund really showed Manchester United what they were missing, as he racked up 31 goals in all competitions this year and bagged himself a Premier League Golden Boot. Cody Gakpo also had a great year, as he provided 33 goal contributions in 49 appearances from the wide positions and was a fantastic versatile option for us. Our second half of the Premier League season was almost as good as the start, and even finished the year with a 2-0 victory against Manchester City at home to see us crowned Premier League champions. We won the league with 80 points, so not the best return, but ultimately, I don't really care. And that is where the domestic success ended, sadly, as we failed to defend our FA Cup trophy, losing to Liverpool in the 5th round. And Liverpool seemed to be our kryptonite this year, as they also dumped us out of the EFL Cup as well. And finally, for the season recap, we talk about the Champions League, where I wanted to get back into that Champions League final for a second year in a row. Well, we started the league phase well by getting our own back on Real Madrid for last season's final as one of 4 wins in the league phase. This season, however, we could only manage to finish 11th in the table, meaning we'd have a playoff fixture to contend with. And we drew one of the toughest teams possible here as we got AC Milan. In the first leg at the San Siro, the goals were flying in for both sides, but ultimately ended in a 3-3 draw to give us a pretty fair chance of progressing. Then back at the London Stadium, we scored 3 more, but this time without reply, to move into the round of 16. Here we had to face Italian opposition again as we had to take on Juventus. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We put 10 goals past Juve in one of the craziest Champions League ties I have ever seen. And then for good measure in Turin, we beat them again with 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 scoring the only goal of the game. So we marched into the semis and had to face Atletico Madrid. We were at home for the first leg and couldn't match what we did in the last round, but we did win this one 2-0 with goals from Rasmus Højlund and Flynn Downs. But then on the road, it was us who had the collapse as 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 and co ripped us to shreds, winning 4-0 on the night and ending our run in this year's competition. Meaning we did achieve the goal of this save by winning the Premier League, but I've now got that taste for European football and I want the Champions League. We've got another £72 million to spend over the summer, so let's get to spending. Okay, money everywhere, and it actually looks like we've actually made some really good money in this transfer window because it looks like we've not spent any. We have. I'll come back to that in a second because we got our business done early. Talking about the outgoings though, Thomas Souček has departed the club, Emerson's gone, Benrahma's gone, Kurt Zuma's gone in the major outgoing. 40 million to Real Madrid he's departed for. Caio Jorge also gone to Eintracht Frankfurt, so we made a nice little profit on him. And Mad Rorslev also gone as well. But fear not, we have spent some money. It wouldn't be a Premier League transfer window if we didn't. We just got our business done pretty early. First up are these 3 on this page, and you can see some of the business that we've done. Also on this page, James Ward-Prowse also gone to Real Madrid for £36 million. Their team is weird. That Madrid team is so weird. On the incoming side of things though, we spent £65 million on Quentin Merlin from Marseille. Yes, I know, another fullback coming out of France. I think this one's going to stick in this position. We also raided Nice for Khéphren Thuram as well. £75 million for him, rising to 105. He is a physical monster if you've not signed him in this year's game, and you need to because he's moved to Juve in real life, so he will be much harder to get your hands on next season. 6'4", France international. Nice dad, basically. Lilian Thuram, supremely good physically, nice high determination, and really good technicals as well to be an elite tier box-to-box midfielder. And we also signed Gonçalo Inácio from Sporting for £33 million to bolster our centre-back options. He's got a slight injury at the moment, a little bit of a torn hamstring, but he'll come back and be better for that. Nice good replacement for us in there. If we quick pick without restriction our best 11 going into season 4, this is how we are set up. We've really added to some of those areas. I think Inácio coming into play alongside Mavropanos, he's actually still been very good for us this year, along with Coyote and Tefert for our back 4. Bove, Thuram, Lucas Paquetá, they kind of offer absolutely everything in that midfield with the combination of the 3 of them. Then Bowen, Gakpo, Højlund. Superb front 3 in this year's game. Bowen is wanted. The transfer window has not closed yet. He is wanted by Milan. I still think he'll stay here in the grand scheme of things. Competitions have 5 trophies up for grabs this year. Obviously, we go back into the Community Shield this time as Premier League winners. We're still in the Champions League, trying to relive that final from 2 seasons ago. And in the Prem, the board want that Europa League qualification again, but as winners last season, I'm out to prove it was not a fluke. If we have a look at the season preview, again, the media are not having us here, but Rasmus Højlund has made it into the media Dream 11, which is good to see. But I have just clocked Carlo Ancelotti's taken over at Man City. Now that's a problem. For a second season in a row, we started our year with the Community Shield, this time as Premier League winners, and really taught Spurs a lesson in this one as we battered them from start to finish, with Rasmus Højlund bagging a hat-trick in a 6-0 win. We carried that form into the Premier League season with a great run to start the campaign, with our only defeats coming against Liverpool and Manchester City. Someone who really took off for us this season was fullback 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪, who really proved why he is one of the best right backs in the game by providing 18 assists in all competitions this year. And the best of the summer signings was 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 who bossed the midfield for us this year and provided 16 goals and 14 assists in all comps and was among the best players in the division. In the second half of the year, we were outstanding, beating almost everyone, only dropping 7 points from the 54 available in 2027. That means it will come as no surprise as we secured the Premier League title for a second season in a row, this time getting 89 points to beat United to the title by just 4 points. I also have to give a shout out to goalkeeper Mads Hermansen, who claimed the Premier League Golden Glove as well for the most clean sheets in a season with 19, basically meaning he kept one clean sheet every other game. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows as we had another pretty poor performance in the domestic cup competitions in England. We suffered a 4-3 defeat at home in the FA Cup 4th round, with Brighton being incredibly clinical in front of our goal. And in the EFL Cup, it was Liverpool who knocked us out of the competition for a second season in a row after a crazy penalty shootout at Anfield. But the Champions League always had my eye this year, and we had an unbeaten league phase, picking up 6 wins in 8 games to achieve a second place finish in the table and move automatically into the round of 16. It was English opposition here as we'd have to face Tottenham, with the first game being away from home. And we were handed an immediate setback in this one as Brendan Johnson scored for Spurs inside the opening 60 seconds, but at the other end of the game in the 88th minute, Lucas Paquetá was able to pull us level, turning the ball home after Jarrod Bowen hit the crossbar. Then back at the London Stadium, things were a little bit more routine for us as we are the best team in England, and we ran out 4-1 winners on the night to move into the quarter-finals. Barcelona were the next team up for us, and in the first leg at home we raced out into a 3-goal lead, but were reminded how good Lamine Yamal is as he scored 2 goals for Barca to give them more than a lifeline for this second leg. However, at the Nou Camp, it was us who were in charge of the game, with 2 goals in the first half from Kudus and Bowen converting from the spot. Meaning we'd march into the semis, and this time it would be Bayern in the way of our second Champions League final in 3 seasons. The first leg was in Germany, and Bayern showed that they are still a force to be reckoned with as they scored a goal either side of one from 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 to give us a pretty uphill task going back to London. But that was a task that we were more than capable of handling, as we won 3-1 on the night, with Harry Kane scoring the only goal for Bayern on his return to London. So we made it back to the Champions League final, and this time we'd have to take on PSG. And the game itself was actually pretty uneventful, going 0-0 for 120 minutes, meaning it would needed to be decided via penalty shootout. And this is where our keeper came alive again as he denies Xavi Simons, Gavi and Milan Skriniar to see us crowned Champions League winners. So I think this is potentially the most successful season that West Ham have ever seen. But I want one final roll of the dice to see if we can better it, and we have another £78 million in the transfer budget to spend, but we are currently failing UEFA Champions League financial fair play. So we need to get creative in this summer window. So guys, here we are, transfers page going into our 5th and final season. The biggest outgoings, Leif Davis has gone to Lyon for £31 million, and also Lucas Paquetá did not want to sign a new deal for us. He was unhappy with his game time, so he's gone to Inter Milan on a free transfer. But we have spent some money because of course we have. Some of the signings that we have made, Daniel Prieto comes in from Bayern Munich for £20 million, a good backup goalkeeper option. You know what FM24 is like, guys. You know they moan about not having enough goalkeeper depth. We also signed João Gomes from Wolves. Really good. He's not got caps for Brazil in this game, but he is a physical monster with unbelievable work rate at 16. Good teamwork as well as his marking and positioning being quite high as well. £33 million for him coming into play in our midfield. And if we have a look on this page, you can see Adamo Nagalo comes in to be another good centre-back for us. Again, I like these physical centre-backs, 6'1", good physicals on him as well. The only thing I don't like on him is tries to play his way out of trouble, but I'm sure we can coach that out of him. We spent £75 million on another forward because forwards are really expensive. Nelson Viper came in from Mainz. He's developed really nicely in this world. Good physicals in terms of his jumping reach. He's got 18 jumping reach and he's 6'4". He's capped by Germany in this universe, so a very good pickup for us there. And then when 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪 available, you sign 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪. He's already moved in this year's game. He was at Porto. He looks like I've seen better versions of him, but it is still 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪, so you know he is one of the most consistently developing wonder kids. He came in for £56 million for this final roll of the dice. If we have a look at the team and quick pick the best 11, this is how we are set up. It's the best team we've had. Bowen is wanted yet again by Manchester United. He is transfer listed because obviously he's a little bit unhappy with what's going on here, but he still makes it into our best 11 as one of the only players to survive alongside Kudus in this best 11 going into season number 5. But the team is probably the best that it ever has been, to be perfectly honest. And if we go and have a look at the competitions, lots to play for this year. 6 trophies on the line. Obviously, we have the Super Cup where we take on Newcastle. We have the Community Shield again where we play Liverpool. And if we have a look at the pre-season preview, after 2 Premier League titles in a row, the media are backing us, right? Wrong. We are now 9-1. We are predicted to finish in 5th, which would secure us Champions League football again. Yeah, disappointing to not be backed a little bit more after winning it the last 2 seasons. Let's simulate our 5th and final season and see if this can be our crowning achievement as West Ham manager. And before we get into the results of season number 5, guys, this is the point in the video where if you are still watching, I ask you to do 2 things. If you are still watching, drop a like on today's video because that lets everyone on YouTube know that you enjoy this content and it will start to serve you a little bit more of it. And if you are still here, let me know that you personally are still here by commenting the word bubbles down below. It's the famous West Ham chant, I'm forever blowing bubbles. Just hit bubbles down below or even throw the emoji in, why not? We're going to get into season 5 now. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Let's get into it. As always, we started the season with the Community Shield, but this game was uneventful, ending goalless, meaning the penalties would decide the winner. And this is where our goalkeeper proved that he's superhuman in shootouts yet again, saving penalties from both Darwin Núñez and Trent Alexander-Arnold to see us win the Community Shield for a 3rd season in a row. We were able to follow this up with the UEFA Super Cup as we took on Europa League winners Newcastle. Rasmus Højlund gave us the lead in the first half, and we were able to extend that in the second half with a nice set-piece routine. Newcastle did pull a goal back, but we were able to hold on and secure trophy number 2 for the year. But alas, a competition that doesn't seem to have our name on it was the EFL Cup, as we suffered defeat to Manchester City in the 4th round. In the Premier League, we took the top spot on the opening day with a 7-0 demolition of Leicester and went on an amazing streak of 10 consecutive wins to start our campaign. Cody Gakpo was our standout performer this season as the Dutchman provided 19 goals and 17 assists in all competitions. And he's now wanted by Al Ahly, so we potentially have a big payday coming. Much like last season, we were outstanding after the turn of the year, only losing once on the road to Spurs, but ending the season strong, beating Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool all without conceding a goal. And it's just as well we did, as we finished the season on 86 points, which was the same as Tottenham, but we had a better goal difference, so we managed to three-peat the Premier League, winning it yet again. But the dominance didn't stop here, as we managed to make our 2nd FA Cup final of the save, facing easier opposition on the run to Wembley, with the exception of Arsenal. We'd have a lucky draw in the final as well, as we would have to take on Bournemouth, who only finished 10th in the Premier League this season. But it was Bournemouth who took the lead in this one, with Emmanuel Omega converting from the penalty spot. However, after a bit of a bollocking at half-time, we remembered who we are and smashed home 4 unanswered goals in the second half to win our 2nd FA Cup of the save, meaning that we added 4 trophies to the trophy cabinet this season, but could we retain the Champions League? Well, for a 2nd season in a row, we completed an unbeaten league phase, which included some pretty ruthless results to see us finish 2nd in the table and move into the knockout phase of the competition. Here, we faced Dortmund, with the first leg being in Germany, in front of the yellow wall. Goals were flying in from both sides here as we shared a 3-3 draw on the night to give us a great chance of progressing at home in the 2nd leg. And we did just that by putting Dortmund to the sword, with German Nelson Viper netting an impressive hat-trick in a 5-2 win on the night. So we marched into the quarterfinals where we came up against PSV, and this was clearly a non-contest as we hammered them 3-0 in both legs to move into the semis, which is where we had an all-English affair as we would take on Spurs. This time, we were at home for the first leg and continued our impressive run in this competition with a 2-0 win at the London Stadium. But things fell apart a little for us in the second leg as Spurs roared back into the tie and actually won 3-0 on the night to knock us out of the competition, with none of our players really covering themselves in glory. So we couldn't complete a clean sweep of all the trophies, but I have loved this rebuild, and this is where I'm going to hand things over to you. We post all of the save files from these rebuilds so you can pick up these journeys on my Patreon. I will leave links to it down below in the description, and I will pin it in the top comments so you can find this one even easier, so you can pick up this journey where we've left it off with this West Ham super team. If you have enjoyed the video again, guys, don't forget to drop a like on it, and if you want to see more rebuilds on FM24 from myself, check out this playlist popping up right here. It's going to be all the rebuilds that we've done on this year's game.